Hey guys, welcome to my little paintbrush. I'm Miss Sarah, and today we get to paint this beautiful arrangement of flowers together. And I have been so excited to do something like this with you, so I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Please remember as we are painting and creating together that you can pause the video. You don't have to go at my pace. So if you feel like you need a minute to complete a step, feel free to just hit pause for a second, okay? And the fun thing about flowers is they do not need to be perfect, right? You can let them be. Enjoy the imperfections. Mix your colors. Change your colors. They don't have to be just like mine, okay? All right, let's get started. So my color palette today is kind of fun. I have them all laid out on my plate, but one thing to keep in mind is that as we mix white with different colors, we don't want to contaminate all our white at the same time, all at once. We want to save some for later. So I've laid my white out in separate areas on my plate so that I can get to it quickly and I won't contaminate it. I'm going to be mixing a lot to get the colors that I want, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So let's get started. I have a couple of brushes today. Now, feel free to mix it up. You don't have to use the same brushes I'm using. These are just my favorites. I have a large flat, number 6 round, a small flat, and a detail brush. Now, usually I'll just go with these 3. I'm using a round today because I like to use it for flowers, but you can definitely do it with a small flat too. So, let's start with our background just to get warmed up. I'm going to do my background a really light brown. You can, of course, change this. You don't have to do it brown like I am. But to get this brown, I'm going to use a touch of my brown with my large flat brush and mix it with some of my white. And I'm just using a touch at a time because I really wanted to keep it light. So you'll notice that I'm using a lot of white and just a tiny bit of my brown. Okay, and I'm going to just quickly fill in the background around my flower here. This is kind of a boho look. I kind of wanted to do a little bit with that and have some fun with it. So I added this fun background that you can totally change any way you like. Okay, as I get towards my flowers here, I'm not going to worry too much about getting super close to my tracing because I'm going to fill it in with leaves and other things. So I'm just going to get close but not fill it in too much, I'm going to keep it pretty open. So I'm going to paint around it, quickly lay it in here. You could do this a light pink if you wanted. You could do it a gray. There's so many options with this background. And I love that. I love when there's options, right? So you do what you're feeling right now. If you want to take some of that red and add some white to it and really lighten it up so you can get this light pink background. I even considered doing that actually. I was tempted to do it pink. I think it'd be very pretty. I was kind of playing with the browns this time around, so I went that direction. Okay, and I'm not painting my canvas white. I am leaving that my canvas. Now if you want to take the time to paint it white, go for it. I'm going to leave it be. Again, I'm just getting close to my trace here. As you can see, I've traced kind of the basic outline of our painting on here. For those of you that are using our paint kit or want to use our pattern, we can give that to you. Or you can create this freehand. That works too. All right, so I'm getting pretty close to being done here. Just making sure I have it filled in all the way to as close as I want. Okay, now if you want to kind of darken some of your edges, I just take a touch of brown on the corner of my brush and follow the edge with the dark brown. See that? And I didn't do all my edges, I just did some of them, just to kind of give it that touch of dark on some of my corners and along some of my edges. If you want a certain area to kind of stand out, you can do this. Just blend in a touch of that brown. So I just add it to the corner of my brush before I rinse it here, and just follow my edge with it. Remember, with acrylic paint, you always want your brush to stay damp. You don't want it to get too dry on you. So if you're starting to feel like your paint is seizing up and it's not floating very smoothly, you might just want to add a little bit of water to your brush. So I'm just adding some of that dark around the edges if I just want it to stand out a little bit. And I kind of like doing the corners so you can see where those corners are. It draws attention to the center of my canvas. Okay, here we have it. So now we have our background in. I'm going to rinse my brush. And again, you just keep playing with it as much as you want. If you want to change things up, go for it. All right, so now we're going to get started on our flowers. They're really one of the first things that we do. And you're really going to love these flowers. They're a lot of fun. So the center flower, I'm going to use my largest brush to do it. Okay, because it's a big flower and I want to fill it in pretty quickly. So I'm using kind of a magenta color to get it. I'm going to mix a couple of things together. I have my red here, and I'm going to use a touch of yellow as well. Mix it in there. And you'll notice you kind of can add more yellow if you want it more orange, or less yellow if you want it a little pinker. But I'm going to add more yellow and then a touch of white. And I just keep mixing until I love that color. You're going to find that your shade will be different from mine. That is one of my favorite things about creating, is that we can all paint the same thing and get a different outcome. So as you're mixing these colors, just mix them until you feel like you love it. Okay, mine's a little orange, and I wanted it orange. I like it. Okay, and I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up here. We don't need to worry too much about all the detail work just yet. We just want to get that first layer in. So I'm going to start from the bottom, work my way up, and just fill it in here, curving around the top and coming back down. Just filling it in there. Okay, and I like this color. It's one of my favorites lately. Okay, so we filled in that flower. We're going to do this one next, so same thing. Now you of course can mix up your colors and do a different color than mine. You don't have to do it the same shade. You have lots of colors on your plate to play with. I have to say, I saw a similar painting at Pottery Barn. It's where I got my inspiration, and I thought, oh, that's so happy. It makes me happy. I believe I saw it on a pillowcase, and I just wanted it. So I thought, I've got to paint something like that just to bring me some happiness this spring. So thank you, Pottery Barn, for the inspiration. All right, so we're gonna let that dry a minute. And now we are gonna go to a different color. And I'm gonna switch brushes for these. This is where I'm gonna use either a small flat or a round brush. And I'm gonna make this turquoisey blue using turquoise and white, mixing it together until I get this light turquoisey color. Then I'm actually gonna add a touch of brown to it. What? I know. But I wanted to just give it that, you know, smoky look. So I'm gonna add just a touch of brown to my blue till I like it. I really like that blue. Well, it's kind of fun. You can have some fun with that. Okay, I'm gonna come up here. Let's see here. Which ones do I want to do first? I think I'm gonna start with these flowers just to get us warmed up. Okay, so I'm gonna start here at the top of the stem and create a smile shape. And on the other side, create another smile shape and then give it a center, just like that. See, some of the easiest flowers you'll ever do. Now, I'm gonna do 3 the same way, going down the side of the stem. Now, here's the thing with these flowers that's so fun. You don't have to do them all the same. Once you have the motion, you can then add different shapes to it. Okay, and just on the other side, I'm going to give it some more so I can do that. Create my smile. Now with this one, I could just do 2 smiles and leave it like that. It's just a simple brush stroke. Just like that. Okay, they don't all have to be the same, and that's one thing I love about these flowers. So here I'm going to do one over here at the top of this stem. Create my 2 smiles and then a center. And you can see it looks different from this one, right? They both are different. We can just have some fun with these. So I'm going to create my smile on that one and a center. This one I'm going to make a little different. You can make them smaller, more closed, or bigger with a center. Just like that. Kind of fun. So just create that smile and play off of it. So you can give it a center and another stroke. And there you have it, some fun little flowers. So I'm going to do the same thing over here at the top of this stem as well. I have a leaf coming up here, but right at the top of the stem, I have a little flower. We're going to create that by doing the same kind of thing. You're going to make a smile, connect it with another smile, and then give it a center, just like that. Just a simple little brush stroke. And we'll do the same here. So I'm going to create a smile, starting on that stem there, and another little smile, and then give it a center. A center stroke straight up. Here's another, give it a smile, or even we like to call it a rainbow with a smile and then a center. There you go. You love it. And then this flower here is also going to be blue on mine, unless you changed yours up. But for now, I'm just going to fill it in, just like my other flowers. And then I'll come back later and we'll add some little details to it to finish it up. You can also leave this flower flat if you want. If you want to go for more of a boho look, you can leave it completely flat. So I'm going to rinse my brush. Okay, I hope you're having fun. I'm going to come up here and do 2 little flowers on these 2 stems with the same color that I used for my larger flower. So I'm going to go back to that now. Okay, I'm going to come over here to my stem. And the way we create this one is basically we want to give ourselves a smile to build off of. So let's see here. I'm going to give myself a smile. One side of my smile is kind of coming up because I don't want both sides to be exactly the same. So I have one part of my smile coming up a little bit, and then I'm going to give it a center. So now I'm going to build off of that smile and create another little smile inside of it, just like that. And then give it a middle, just like this. Now I can continue to fill it in if I want to, or you can leave some of those open. That's up to you. Okay. But just keep building off of those smiles. Flowers are happy. And they're different every time I paint them too. They're never the same. So I'm going to come over here and do the same thing. I'm creating that smile. Okay. And then I'm going to build off of it in the center. Let's give it another smile and another smile right there. And then a middle. Just like that. You kind of see how we just build off of our smile to create that shape. Perfect. All right, let's go back to our large flower here. Now that you have the whole thing filled in, we can have some fun. You're going to take a large or a medium flat, okay? Load it up with your color. If you need to make some more, go ahead and do it. It's okay if you need to make some more. Okay, I'm just going to make sure I have enough here. Make sure that color matches up pretty well. All right, so we kind of want the top of our flower to be lighter, right? Because it's touching the light. So all I'm going to do is take my brush here that has my flower color on it, put a little bit of white on the corner, just like this, okay? And I'm going to follow the very top edge of my flower petals first. We're going to go along each edge with that white facing out. This is a little tricky. It takes some practice, but here's the thing with this. It doesn't need to be perfect. You can let that white fade. It doesn't have to look like mine. The goal is to just have that top part of your flower lighter than the bottom. All right, so let's do some more here. We're going to work our way down. Now I'm going to follow each of the top petals with petals just below it, okay? So we're going to follow the same pattern, but we're going to go slightly below it. So now I'm going to create a petal here, right under that one. And then another one here, just under that one. You see how I'm just following it, but with a petal just below, okay? Just below it. And they can be tall, they can be small, some are taller than others. That's totally up to you. But see how I just followed my petals there? All right, once that's done, we can finish up our very bottom petals here. So I'm going to go along the edge of my flower with the lighter part facing out again. So I'm putting a little bit of white on the corner of my brush again. Okay. I'm going to follow it here. And we're coming right below our petals again. So I'm going to follow it out. Okay. Come down. Just like that. We have more to do, so don't worry if you feel like, oh, I've messed it up, it doesn't look good. It's not going to look bad. Promise. This is just what we're starting. We are starting off with it. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. I have about 7 petals on the bottom for mine, so just want to make sure I'm getting close to that. It's different every time I paint these flowers. Okay. Now I have one here. Just keep that white on the outer edge and you're going to be great. And then one more right along this outside edge. Okay, just like that. All right, good work, guys. So the goal is just to have a little bit of that shading showing up, right? Okay, right along the top of your flower. And that can be however you want it to be. All right, I'm just gonna make sure the tops are kind of showing up for you right there on the screen. It can be kind of light and then you may not see it. Okay, there you go. So now we're going to add dark on the bottom in a minute. Let's let that dry a second. Make sure you have enough paint for this next flower. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to make sure I have that color on my brush and it matches up. Looks good. Now I'm going to put some white on the corner as well. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and start at the very top. Do my 3 top ones. Now remember, you just go right below, right, and match it up. So I'm going to come below it now. Match it up. There we go. And then I'm going to follow that with some petals below. Coming up. Now these petals, you can just create as many as you want, right? You don't have to do it like mine. There we go. I'm going to just match up underneath it as many as I want. I'm doing it kind of backwards here. Usually I'll hold my canvas. Okay. Now, if you don't want to float these flowers like I am, you don't have to. You can outline the white. You can fill it in and outline the white. That's totally an option. But now you can see that all of our tips are lighter, right, than the rest. And that's the goal, okay? And I'm going to rinse my brush now. Rinse it all out. Let those flowers sit for just a minute. Let's go and work on our blue flowers. This blue flower is very similar. Remember, our blue is made with some white, turquoise, and brown. So just make sure you have enough of that color. Yep, looks good. All right, so it's the same way. I'm putting a little bit of white on the tip. Okay, I'm going to come over here to my blue, start at the top. Just float in that white. This one I only did those top couple of petals and then I added 3 right below it. So it's a little bit more simple. And these other ones I didn't float anymore at all. Because they're so small, I just made sure they had a good coat of that color. And then we add some white highlights later. But that's it. These are very simple and dainty just the way they are. We don't need to add a whole lot to them. So you can just go right over them. Just make sure they have a good coat of paint on them. Or as much as you want. If you like the brush strokes, you don't have to add another coat of paint. Sometimes we're just happy with the strokes the way they are, right? I just love doing flowers. They're so relaxing because you can just let them be imperfectly beautiful. There we go. You have all your flowers laid out. Beautiful work. All right. Now, if your big flowers are dry enough, you really want to make sure they're dry enough for this. You can add a layer of dark magenta. So I'm going to put a little bit of red and yellow together here. but keep it darker. I'm just going to brush up from along the bottom to give it a shadow there. This is, you know, if it's dry enough for you. If you feel like it's still wet, give it just a minute. Okay, because you really want to make sure those are dry enough for you to add that shading. It's not super noticeable, but it is once you put that green in, you can kind of see the shadow. Okay, and I'm going to come up and add another layer to these beautiful flowers up here. You can make these a little darker or lighter than the rest of them. It's up to you. They look different every time I paint them because it's just a matter of where your brush stroke takes you. Just like that. We'll add our highlighting later. But there you have it, guys. Beautiful work. So let's let that dry a second. And let's get to work on our leaves. Our leaves are so fun because they're a flat color. You don't have to do any blending. You already did all the hard stuff. Okay? So this part's just supposed to be fun. We are going to do different shades. So I have some of them more of a yellow shade and some of them are just dark. So I'm going to make my, let's make our light shade first, right? So I'm going to take some yellow and add a touch of my phthalo green to it. I want this to be nice and yellow though, a very limey green. Now I'm going to add some brown to that. Go over here, add a little bit of brown, and you'll get, you know, this smoky green. Make sure you add enough yellow to it though. We really want this to be more yellow. And now I'm going to add a touch of white. Touch of white to it. I always add a touch of white. It helps it go on better. It just looks so much nicer. All right. Now, once you're happy with your color and you feel like you got it, let's start with our leaves here to get us warmed up. So I'm going to curve. Now, the way I like to create leaves is I create a rainbow shape and then a smile to connect it. And I brush away from the stem. Okay. Now, depending on whether you like a very flat look to your painting or if you like brush strokes, you may have to add another layer of this one. If you like to see the brush strokes, you only need 1 or 2 layers. If you like it to be very flat, you might have to add 3 layers. I like mine to be pretty pretty textured, so I leave those brush strokes. Okay, so you can see there. Let's use now a detail brush. So a detail brush or a line brush. So go ahead and swap brushes if you are using a bigger flat or a medium. We need to make some stems so you have something to build off of. Okay, so I'm going to create a stem here with that light green color. Let's see, we're going to add some leaves here. So I'm giving myself a couple of stems to build off of. I think I'll do one here. All right. I'm going to come up here to these fun flowers and go ahead and fill in my stem there. And this stem wraps around my flower, my center flower. So I'm just going to wrap that stem all the way around. There we go. Another thing I really love to do with these flowers is create these fun green, I don't know if you want to call them stems or leaves, but they're coming right off the base and you're creating a mustache shape. See that? Looks kind of like a mustache. And then a couple more coming off the bottom. So Just going to curve it around just like that. Isn't that fun? I'm going to do the same over here. Create your mustache on each side. And then create a smaller mustache underneath. Add one more. Just like that. It's kind of fun. Just a different way. And then we're going to bring a stem here for our blue flower. It's light as well with this lighter yellowish green. And then let's give our blue flower a base here. Okay, and the way you do that is you create a V shape under your flower. And then we've got to add a third stem somewhere, or leaf. You can have it going straight up the center, or you can have it kind of kitty corner to the side. Totally up to you on that one. Okay. You want to make sure you have a good layer on these stems here. I think we're ready. So once you feel like you're ready, you can go ahead and start building on those leaves. So our leaves now, we want to do a rainbow shape and connect it with a smile. Fill it in. You can make them as big or as small as you like. We like to tell our artists to create that rainbow and connect it with a smile. It just really makes creating leaves simple and fun. Reminds us to be happy. Rainbow and a smile. Okay, got one here. You can make these as big as you want. One thing I like to do too is start small and then you can make it bigger as you go. I have painted this before, so I kind of have my dimensions figured out in my head, but you can always create small in your leaves and then make it bigger as you go, as you decide how big you want them. There we go. It's looking good, guys. Looking good. So I just want to make sure I have a good layer on all of my leaves before I move on. Start building on other things here. With all of these mixings and colors, you can really have a good time with your color palette here. You can have a lot of fun just mixing those up. So remember, our leaves, you mix phthalo, yellow, and brown. A lot of yellow to get this yellowy green color, right? So just remember with that one, it's a lot more yellow than what we'll use for the rest. Okay, I forgot that we want to outline these leaves as well with this light one, light color. So you can go ahead and do that with that stem as well. Just if you want to make sure you have that light color there. All right, looking so good. So let's mix our next green. Our next one is going to be a lot darker, but it's the same colors. We're just going to add more phthalo green and brown. So I'm going to use yellow. I don't want to use all my pile here, but I'm mixing a lot on my plate. But save some of that yellow green that you used here for your leaves for later in case you need it. If there's anything you want to touch up, it's nice to have that there. Okay, so I'm adding some brown to my yellow and my phthalo green. I want this to be darker, noticeably darker. So I'm using quite a bit of brown, phthalo green, and yellow with a touch of white there. Okay, we're getting there. I just keep mixing until I feel like it's a lot darker and I like it. But I do want it to be noticeably darker than the rest. Okay, keep that yellow in there. That yellow gives it a pretty color. A little bit of brown. Okay, I like this. I feel like we've got it there. Okay, so mine's quite a bit darker. And let's start now with our center stem. So you can see it's quite a bit darker than my other green. That's what I want. I want it that way. This leaf and this stem are kind of going to go together. So I'm going to come here and let's go ahead and fill it in. Gotta make sure I have enough water in my paint so it goes on nice and smooth for me. Okay, so I'm going to follow that stem down up to my flower. Your stem doesn't have to be a perfect line. There's a lot of imperfections in my stem. I like that. Okay, then we're going to do this leaf here. Got some water drip on that one. Okay, here's my leaf. With your green, you'll find you'll probably need 2 layers of your green. That's totally normal. All right, unless you're going for more of a watercolor look, you'll use less. So there's my stem. I'm going to switch now. Well, yes, I'm going to switch to a detail brush to do my other stems. I don't want to keep using a bigger brush for that. Okay, so here's my other stem. I'm going to now do my little stems here to my other flowers. I've got a stem here as well, where I'm going to do a leaf. And then I have kind of like a thorn type of a stem coming up. You can create this if you'd like, just to fill in space. It looks, I kind of square it out at the top and just give myself a rectangular stroke. I'm going to come down my stem and just make sure it's nice and filled in with my detail brush. Follow it down. And then at the bottom, I kind of make it look like it's been clipped. Give it a slanted look at the bottom there. Make sure these are filled in really well. And kind of clean up the stems here. Fill it in. Give your leaf a nice point at the end with your detail brush. Fill that in. It's kind of a flat look. We're not going to do a lot of blending or anything. Makes it very simple. We're just going to fill that in, clean it up. Okay, do another layer on some of our stems, make sure they're looking good. All right, awesome. Okay, so we're going to do these stems next for our flowers. It's going to come straight up through the middle of those flowers you created from your outline, right up the middle with your darker green. Unless you switched it up on me and you did a lighter green, that's just fine too. Love to see what you come up with and create. There we go. And I'll do the same here. So I'm going to create a stem coming up from my flower. It's kind of branching off into this little blue one. We have a couple stems coming up away from it for our leaves. Finish up this stem as well. Little branches coming off away for our leaves. It's looking good, guys. Remember, you can add as many layers as you want. As many as you feel you need to. Okay. Now while these little stems dry for just a minute, I'm going to show you how to create the little leaves coming up here away from each flower. So you're going to create that Y shape with the center. And we'll do that on each one. You can either create that Y and then fill in the center, or you can just do a couple of them. They don't all have to be the same. But if you just create that little Y and then the center for each one, it gives those flowers that little stand, you know, where they're budding out and coming away from the branch. So I'm going to do it on each one of them with my detail brush. They don't need to be the same. They don't need to be perfect. You create that Y shape and then a center for each one, and it'll look amazing. I'm going to do that for each of my flowers here. There we go. See how it just finishes them up for you? Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to do the same here for these little blue ones. Create your Y, just like that, and give it a center. Create a Y, and a center. I'm going to add 2 centers to that one just to change it up. Okay. All right. Okay, once that's done, while I have this green on my brush, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to finish up these leaves. Okay, so first we want to just follow the center stem with the darker green. Okay. Once that's done, we're going to follow the outside edge with a green stroke. Just like that. And the other outside edge with a green stroke too. Now it can be lower than the other side or higher. Try not to keep them all the same. But now I'm going to give it a center. Just like that. And you can fill in the sides with either 2 or 3 strokes, whatever feels good there. See that? Do the same over here. So I'm going to come around the edge with my darker green. Okay, now I'm going to come around the other side as well, and then fill in the center with a couple more strokes. I like to kind of give it some diversity. I don't want it to look like a specific pattern. So if you feel like you're getting too much of a pattern, you can kind of add or take away some strokes there. Okay, I'm going to give this side one as well. Just give it a center and a couple strokes there in your leaf. So I'm going to go along the edge of this one, each side, One longer, one shorter. No rhyme or reason, right? Let's have some fun putting those brush strokes in there. Okay, I'm gonna follow this one up. Follow it around. Give it a center, kind of curving it out. And a couple more strokes. There you go. There you have it. Let's do these here the same way. I'm going to give it a little bit of dark on the stem. And I'm going to follow the edges of each leaf. We just want those strokes to all be a little different, not the same. Okay, let's do this next one. Follow it out. There we go, kind of cool. So fun to do. All right, now I'm going to come over this with that shade, darker shade of green, just over the yellow. And our yellow is going to show through as a little bit of a highlight, but not super overpowering. But it gives it that light. It's going to go right over the edge, just like that. Leave it alone. I'm going to let that be. Guys, you're just about done. So, make sure your leaves have a good layer. Okay, and with our flower here, we're going to add that base as well. Okay, you create that V shape with one in the center, just like the rest of them. Can't leave this one out. Gotta be the same. All right. Make sure we have a good layer on all of our green. It's looking so awesome. Okay, and now we're just gonna let that dry while you finish up your leaves. So here's our leaves here. We're gonna create with our green that matches our dark, right? We want these leaves to be dark too. I'm gonna start right here at the top of my stem again and create my rainbow shape and my smile. I'm going to use a small round brush. You could use a detail brush, whatever feels good to you. Just create that rainbow shape and then connect it with a smile and fill it in. But I'm using the same green, dark green that I've used on my stems. And then I have one here as well. Create that smile and connect it with a rainbow. Just like that. Same here. So I'm going to create that smile and rainbow together. Come over and finish up these leaves. All coming together, guys. There we go. Now you're getting good at these leaves, right? So now I'm going to come up here and finish up my leaves. I'm going to create my rainbow shape right up next to my flower stem. Connect it with a smile. Give it a bit of a point. There we go. Right at the top there. I'm going to build off of it. Rainbow and a smile. Just connect those. I have another one right here. It doesn't really have a stem. I have a rainbow and a smile shape there as well. Let's see. This one, yep. Smile and a rainbow. Connect it together. And one more here. It's kind of jetting out towards my flower. A rainbow and a smile connected. Just like that. Looking so good. Okay, so now we're gonna let that dry. And let's see, I think I'm gonna go ahead and start with these. Mine are dry down here. I'm just gonna put another layer on them. Make sure they're nice and flat and dark. I just want them to really stand out from the rest of my leaves. You can go back over these as well and just make sure they are a nice dark shade up against that yellowish green. Sometimes our green just needs another layer to really make it pop. It's a preference thing, but if you're feeling like you need one more layer on those leaves, go for it. And just quickly layer them. You'll see a little bit of a difference. If you want that flatter look. Okay. So I like to just quickly go over it if you're feeling like it needs it. Not every little detail does. Some things are fine. You don't notice too much of a difference, but if you're feeling like you do, take a second to just add that little layer. Just try and go in the same brush stroke. You want to keep it the same. Same motion. Awesome. All right. We are just going to be doing some finish up work, guys. And you did it. You did it. Okay, so these leaves, same thing. If you just feel like they need one more layer to be done. I really want to point on that one. There we go. So I'm just going to go over them. Add that one little layer. Still going in that same brush stroke of the rainbow and the smile. Always paint the same direction, even though you could quickly fill it in. You'll notice a difference. There we go. Lovely. Love it so much. Okay. I'm going to rinse my brush. And we're just going to do a couple little detail work. So I'm going to use just my dark phthalo green and brown. Mix some of that together. Okay, to give myself these little lines in my leaves. You can do just a little shadow along the edge. You can kind of see it. It's not super noticeable, is it? Not supposed to be. It's just a little bit of detail. And I'm just following the bottom edge and adding a line down the center. The reason I'm just doing that is it's more of a shadow. So anywhere I feel there might be a shadow, I'm adding that line. So I'm following this outer edge and then giving it a line up the center. Do the same over here, the outer edge, and line up the center. Just like that. It's pretty quick. Okay, let's add some of our highlighting. And you guys are done. So I'm going to take some white on my brush, just like that. Okay. Oh my goodness, I just noticed I didn't finish that flower. We didn't give it a base. Okay, put some of that dark green on your brush if you did that like me. Go up to that flower and give that poor flower a base. So you're going to want to do the Y on the bottom of your flower. Give it a center. There we go. Don't want to leave that flower out. All right, so now I'm going to put some white on my brush again. And let's add just some light anywhere you feel you want to show off your stems a little bit. So I'm kind of creating some white along the outer stem of my flowers. Follow the outer stem, and then you can maybe add a touch in the center as well if you want to. The fun thing with this is if you don't like where you put the white, you can just take that color of your flower and fill it back in. I'm just doing a couple of light strokes anywhere I feel I want some separation in my petals, or I just want to add some light to it. Okay, do one on this outer one as well. And I'm noticing I didn't do my Y on that one either. Oh my goodness. There we go. Okay. Do that Y on every flower. Okay, so I have my light here. This one as well. Put a little bit of light in there. Now on this one, I just did a touch coming down the corner and along the top. I didn't want to take away too much from those flowers. I'm going to put just a little bit of light on my leaves. Anywhere you feel the sun might be touching them. All right. We're going to add just a little bit to our flowers as well. But I don't want to take away from the highlighting you've already done. So we're just going to go along the edges of some of those petals. Anywhere you kind of want it to stand out a little bit. Along the edge. We'll do the same here, so just along the top of some of our petals. Coming down the edge just with some white. It just helps those petals pop a little bit. If we do too much white, then we take away from the color. So I'm just adding it to the very tip of some of those petals. Top ones where you feel like the sun might be hitting it. And then you're going to leave them alone. We don't want to keep touching them with white. Okay, we'll add just a little bit of light to these flowers up here. Just so they stand out. And there you go, you guys. So if you did what I did and you have a couple of little spots where some of your paint may have splattered, it's a really easy fix. All you do is take some of that background color you created and go right over them with some of that background color, and it'll cover it right up. So I like to just brush over it. It's a lot easier though than trying to paint your whole background. Right? All right, you guys, beautiful work. I hope you had as much fun as I did. Make sure you find a spot that you can sign your name anywhere on your piece. Just find a little corner. I think I'm going to put it here. sign your name. I'm doing it in my stem color. You can choose your favorite color. Give it your signature, and there you have it. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.